Hi, class. As always, it's good to be with you. So, looking at this week's assignment, hopefully you'll have some fun with this. Here is a spreadsheet that I have modified from my own budget system I use that I share with you to kind of project and forecast what you want to have in your nest egg someday when you choose to retire. As always, fully recommend you start early as you can. And when's the best time to start? Well, now, no matter what time in life you are. So let's just go over a couple quick disclosures. Number one, recommend this gets updated yearly. Keep this as you go. So as you can see, we're assuming this was last updated January 1st, 2024. It is 2024 now as I'm recording this. And all you need to do after you update this each year, you can always update the year here, your current age, and your current amount you have set aside in retirement. All right, coming over to this. So every year you would update this, and this, and then it'll give you your total there. So adjust for inflation. Let's talk about what this is. So I built this in a way that you can click here and you can adjust for inflation or not adjust for inflation. So as you can see, when I'm not adjusting for inflation, it assumes a 10% return, which is around the historical performance of the stock market with dividends reinvested. When I put yes here, it knocks it down to 7%. What that means is it adjusts for the around 3% inflation per year. So it basically puts the future of your number, your investments, how much you'll have in today's dollars. So the way I explain that, let's say that you want to save for $1 million in 20 years down the road. Okay, there's two different scenarios. One is I want $1 million in today's value, and if I wanted that, then I would adjust for inflation, which would be 7%. If I wanted like just $1 million, I don't care about inflation, I just want to have $1 million, then I would put in here no. And then it changes this to 10%. So that's all that this is changing. Let me click on this formula here. If you choose to change the percentage, you can actually change. You see the 7% and 10% right here. 7 is adjusted, 10% is not. You could change this to say you want to do 6% and I don't know, 9%. Then you could just change that to 0.06 and 0.09, and then it would change your numbers here. I put this in here because this is what I run my personal projections at, is 10 and 7. But as I'm going to show you right down here, these are hypothetical projections based on stock market performance. Uh, Past performance does not guarantee future results. So take that for what it's worth. You can change that formula if you want, and everything will just update. So right down here, basic info about the 4% rule. I'm not going to go too deep in this actual presentation with you, but I do recommend you study more about the 4% rule. And just to give you an overview of it, there's a study called the Trinity study that showed if you have a certain allocation of equities, which are stocks and bond type portfolio, some sort of a allocation of the two, as you go into retirement, you can actually take out 4% of your nest egg each year and then continue to do that for a few decades. There is some argument about how long it works for, but the math just shows how long you can continue to do that without running out of money. So I'm mostly confident in the 4% rule. I do believe that perhaps you might have to modify here or there a little bit. But the other thing about the 4% rule that it assumes is that let's say that you save up $2.5 million. That means in year one, you could take out 100,000, which is 4% of 2.5 million. Then the next year, or that year, there was 3% of inflation. The following year, after your first year retirement, you could adjust for inflation and take out $103,000 and do that each year moving forward. Other things to think about is even though early retirement years you might spend more money, depending on health, in the future, there's many retirees who actually spend less money the longer they go, not assuming healthcare expenses. So Anyways, lots to think about there. As I said, I put the link here of just the Wikipedia for the Trinity study, but the 4% rule is a fairly common accepted rule in the FIRE community, which is financial independence, retire early, or just the personal finance community in general. So take that for what it's worth. And then just another quick assumption, calculations are compounding monthly and end of period contribution. So, all right, so now let's just have some fun with this. And I recognize that there's a wide variety of students in this class, ages, where you're at in life. So, but let's just say that that traditional student comes out of college and they are 22 years old. Let's say that they decide that they can invest an additional, let's call it $500 a month, which is $6,000 a year. Okay. And we are adjusting for inflation. So once again, I'm assuming, that the market's going to return 10, but I go down to 7 to put it in today's dollars. So by doing that at 22, putting in $6,000 a year, you go down to retirement age of 65, and they have saved up $1.6 million, which in turn, according to the 4% rule, means you could pull out $65,000 a year out of that nest egg. I don't think that most students in our program who have such a high earning potential with a valuable degree would hope that for their retirement. So let's just get a little bit more, I don't want to say aggressive. Let's just assume for a second that that same 22-year-old averages $100,000 throughout their career. Now, I mean, most of our majors are going to have less than that in the early stages of their career, maybe hit that six-digit mark around year 4 or 5, and then hopefully outpace that by quite a bit. But just to make this easy, let's say it's $100,000 you make throughout your career, and you decide you're going to take advantage of your company match if you're working for a company, and they do a 6% match. And you decide, you know what, I'm going to be super crazy aggressive. I'm going to do more than that 6%. I'm going to do 15% on my own. Plus, I'm going to get the 6% match that my company puts in. So on $100,000, that turns into $21,000 a year. All right, so by doing that at the age of 22, you can come down here and see at 65 now, that turns into a very healthy retirement as you go. And then obviously, the more crazy you get with what you invest, the better off this and quicker this will grow. As long as you can, as Collins talks about in the Simple Path to Wealth, make sure to be consistent, dollar cost average in, and enjoy the ride even when it's bumpy up and down. Recognize it's a long-term game. So yeah, 22, you can find $21,000 a year, including a company match. And even at that point, you can see, depending on how you want to live, let's say you get even more aggressive, you do $23,000 a year, or we'll say you can do a quarter. Now, you can only put $23,000 a year as of 2024. That will go up. If you're watching this video in the future, look up the current amount. But let's just assume that you're a crazy person and you decide you're going to max out your personal IRA, which is $7,000 a year, plus your 401k, which is $23,000 a year. That knocks you up to 30, and then still get the 6% match. That knocks you up to $36,000 a year. Okay, by so doing that, you can see by age of 50, assuming the 4% rule, you're now at $10,000 a month in today's dollars. I'm just going to show you this as I change this to true dollars at age 50, assuming a 10% return. That grows to $5.4 million, which is $219,000 in dollars at that time, which, as I said, are not worth as much as today's dollars because inflation will happen. So hopefully everyone can see the difference between those two numbers. So anyways, at this point, going back to adjusting for inflation, very reasonable if you can figure out what to do with healthcare, which there are many tricks to that as well if you do decide to retire early. This seems to be something that you could choose to, call it quits quicker than others do traditionally. Let's just talk for a second. Let's assume that in 2024, maybe you're a non-traditional student. Maybe let's just say you finished up the program at 40 and you have saved a little bit through the years. Your current retirement amount is 150,000 just through your normal 401ks. Okay. At 50, you're not going to be as high, putting in that same $36,000 a year. But by 65, you still have a super clean retirement. And hopefully that just shows for the young individuals, hey, super important to start this early. If you are a little bit more seasoned in life and you haven't started yet, the best time to always start is today, right now. Even if you're at zero at this age, doesn't matter. The best time to start is to let that start compounding is right now. And the thing I've learned, and hopefully you can pass on to others, never compare yourself to others in this. You're just doing your best, and the best time to start saving is now. So, other kind of cool thing to show, let's say that you were super young and you decided, you know what, I'm just gonna go crazy for my first whatever, I'm gonna work extra jobs. And by the time I'm 40, I'm gonna grow this to $600,000. I don't know, I'm just putting that number in for the heck of it. And then I'm only gonna do $1,000 a month after that. Maybe that's even just the minimum company match, right? You can see at 65, by having such a good head start, you still grow to a super respectable thing. And I'm just going to put this to zero for the heck of it. They actually call this Coast FI. It means that if you have a current number big enough, you don't have to put in anything extra. So if at 40 you can save up 600,000, that's still going to grow to a super respectable number in the future. And as I said, if you're looking and thinking, okay, that number is completely unattainable right now, I'm not even thinking about 600,000. The best thing to do, just do as much as you can into your match for your 401k, your IRA as well. If you're self-employed, look into those options such as the solo 401k or others. And then you just start investing and putting as much in as possible. So once again, I'm not telling anyone how to live their life. I'm not a personal financial advisor. I'm literally just trying to give you a tool to use, and hopefully you can play with this around a little bit. I hope that recommend you keep this spreadsheet for the future to continue to project out where you're going to be out in the future. Have some fun with it, and I hope you all have a great day. Bye-bye.